Hi, I'm Vincent Toth, 2022 AFI Marine Corps Spouse of the Year.
And I'm Steven Toth, a Marine stationed in Okinawa, Japan.
And we just both want to say thank you so much for checking out Military Marriage Day, as we are so excited to talk about our military marriage story.
Yes, thank you so much. And we're actually going to go into our first question, which is for you, Vinny. What is our military story?
Yes, so this is an amazing question. So our military story actually started in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we actually met through a few mutual friends of ours. We went to dinner and a movie, and Steven and I actually hit it off, and we decided to exchange numbers. Over the course of a few days, we decided to kind of hang out still, kind of get to know each other, as we already knew he was heading back to North Carolina because he was back on leave from a deployment, actually. Can you actually talk about your leave from North Carolina into Las Vegas?
Yes, I just came back from a deployment, and I'm originally from Las Vegas. I know you were originally from Las Vegas as well, so that's how I ended up there. I was just on leave for, I think it was 2 weeks at that point. So unfortunately, I think we met each other towards the end of those 2 weeks before I actually went to North Carolina. So I let you know, like, hey, I'm only here for a short time. I didn't know what the future held for me, much less us. But we decided to stick it out and did a long distance relationship. So when I actually moved back to North Carolina, we talked on the phone for a while. I think FaceTime was just starting up at that time.
Yeah, I think it was called Skype at the time.
Yes,
actually.
It was Skype was that. And then from there, I fortunately got orders to California. So that brought us much closer than where we were at. And I think I drove home to see you, it was like almost every week, if not weekly. I would see you, and then from there, you actually moved down to California with me.
Yep.
We were there for a couple of years before moved to New Jersey, which was like a whole new experience, especially for myself going up there. From there, I did recruiting duty, and then we moved over to California together.
Yeah, and during that California stint, actually, when he was stationed in New Jersey, I actually was doing really well at my job, and my career was really progressing a lot. And I actually was job offered in a different state, and it was actually in Maryland for a bigger management position. So at that time, he had just gotten orders. We kind of discussed, what should we do? Should we move to California and kind of take a step back in my career, or should we allow me to keep thriving and kind of not take a break, but take a small little long distance relationship again? And this one was really long, because this wasn't to California to Vegas. This was going to be California to Maryland, two opposite coasts. And we decided to say that this was a really good idea for me and Steven. And so we did that, and we did that for about a year. And thankfully, he was able to fly out to me, I think, 2 times. I think I flew out to California 1 time. And we were able to just make sure that we communicated and stayed in touch, and made sure that we just kind of solidified our marriage during that time, and made sure that there was no adversaries or anything that was kind of coming through to that. And I believe we did that for probably about a year. And I think when I actually moved back to California, you actually were deployed to Australia.
Yes, I was about to deploy.
Yeah, so I think I moved back for like maybe 4 or 5 months at that point, and you were deploying already to Australia. So we went from a long distance relationship back together, back to another long distance relationship because of a deployment. And that was probably about a 6-month deployment.
Yes.
That you were gone. And I remember that was probably one of our longest deployments that you've done.
Yeah.
But that, again, staying in touch, making sure that we FaceTime. FaceTime was around then. And, we just made sure that we always talked all the time. I would send him care packages. He sent me a few things from Australia, little fun packages. So made sure that we just continued to do that. And right after that, you came back. We were here, I think, in California for about 2 years at that point.
Yes, but let me break in real quick. When I came back from deployment, he completely redecorated the house. Like, my couch was brand new. I had a whole new TV. Like, everything was brand new. Sorry.
I may have did a little bit of shopping while he was gone. There was a few bonuses in there that I was just like, I'm buying all this stuff. I'm going to buy a new TV, new couch. And the way he actually found out about the couch, funny story, was we were FaceTiming, and I'm kind of just going around the house, la 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 la, and I guess he caught a glimpse of the couch, because the couch that he had was green, and the couch that I bought was this beige kind of tan one, and he was like, wait a minute, that's brand new, what is that? So kind of little funny story there, but yeah, he did that, and he came back, and we were in California for, I want to say, another 2 years at that point, when he got orders to Okinawa, Japan, where we're currently stationed. And when he got those orders, he was a little afraid to tell me because he didn't think I was going to react very well. But he actually had orders to Okinawa. I want to say it was probably about 4.5 years prior to that. And he asked for other orders because at that time I was really doing well at my job, and you've been always so supportive of me to make sure that my career was thriving. And so we turned down the orders and asked for different ones, and we did get different orders, and those were to California. But with that said, this time around, when he came home and told me, I was like, let's do it. I'm super excited. I don't want to like pass up this opportunity because not going to Okinawa, Japan was actually one of my biggest regrets in life because it was the only opportunity I think I would have in life to be able to move overseas. And this was a great opportunity presented itself. And yeah, so we executed those orders. We got out here and we've done well ever since. I mean, we both love Okinawa, Japan. We actually extended, so we're going to be here for another about 2 years almost, which will get us to about close to 6 years of being here in Okinawa. And I am trying to get that extension again, that one more, but he's kind of fighting me on it a little bit.
Yeah,
I guess we're going to cross that bridge in about a year, you know. But yeah, we love it out here, and we've done really well. And you know, Okinawa has been amazing for kind of both of us in both of our careers and career progression. So next, we're going to kind of go into, I'm going to ask him a question. What was a challenging time or assignment that you have kind of endured during our relationship in the military?
Okay, so for me, I think the most challenging time that I had was during the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which is really when I joined all the way up until like 2011, 2012 timeframe. And then, so that kind of like, you know, I felt almost like I had to be sheltered on who I was. Like I couldn't really
be authentically yourself.
Yeah, I couldn't really be myself. I couldn't really bring you around. Like I remember for the longest time, your name wasn't even your name in my phone, just because I was afraid that somebody would see something. And I had friends in the military that were discharged for their sexual orientation, so I was very keen in to needing to be careful about being open, because I know that wasn't necessarily a thing, and that was okay for me. And then from that, once that hurdle was overcome, it was DOMA, which is the Defense on Marriage Act, allowing us to, for one, we already got over the hurdle of serving openly. The other hurdle was actually being able to marry. So like even when we went from California to New Jersey, DOMA was still in effect, and we weren't able to get. Yeah, Donuts Don't Tell was kind of tapering off, but DOMA was definitely in full effect. And just the difficulties of, you know, moving you up with me to New Jersey, doing that hurdle, any of the issues that we had, like, you know, basically moving myself without moving us, but on a single person's dime. So, you know, BAH, like all that stuff. So I think for me, that was a pretty difficult time. But I mean, I definitely learned a lot through that period. And I think you may have something different as far as a challenging time for you.
Yeah, you know, I do think that during the Don't Ask, Don't Tell and DOMA time was very difficult for both of us because I wasn't able to kind of be at any of those events. You know, there was a time where Steven actually had surgery on Camp Pendleton, and because we weren't married or we weren't in a, you know, opposite sex relationship, I couldn't go on base to go and help him or anything. So what we actually had to do is, his dad is a retired Air Force Master Sergeant, and he actually drove from Vegas to California to ensure that I had access to the base to make sure that he was okay and be able to get him home and everything. So those were some challenging times, I think, for the both of us. You know, you obviously on the side of not being authentically yourself and not being able to be who you are and show your lifestyle and who you were in love with. And on my side, it was kind of not being able to have that military, you know, Marine Corps family in the beginning. And it's such a strong tribe that I do think that it was, you know, it was a difficult time for me. But one of the challenging time or assignments for myself was definitely recruiting duty. You know, that was a time where Steven had to work, you know, endless hours, you know, from 07 in the morning to sometimes almost midnight because, you know, they had to make mission and they had to find those recruits. And it was a difficult time. And I'm sure everyone who is on a special assignment duty has the same or a similar experience, or a different experience, but they're definitely tough ones because it does take a lot of bit of their service members' time, and you aren't able to necessarily be all together. But we were able to get through it and really work through it together, and we came out stronger in the end. I think with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, DOMA, recruiting duty, all these deployments, long distance relationships, we were able to come out even stronger in the end. And I think that has really impacted us as far as having such a impactful military story. And I think that one of the things that's so important for our younger service members, middle service members, older service members, and their families is advice. And that's actually what we're going to segue into next. Is what is advice that you would give the service member and the spouse about being in this military marriage?
So that's a pretty good question. I think for the spouse, the biggest thing I can say is just simplicity, right? So a lot of times, like if I come home, whether it's from work or anything like that, it's just I like things simple. So not necessarily trying to figure out where we're going to eat or what we're going to eat. Just very simple, I think, is where it is. And generally, and I might just be speaking for myself, but generally, the service member is looking for some type of simplicity when they're coming home. And then for the service member, I think what I've always done, I think has worked really well for us, is I've just been very, as we say out here in Okinawa, open komodo. So I'm being very open about discussions. I'm letting you know information. So like with recruiting duty, which I knew was a pretty difficult duty, I didn't shy away from that being a difficult duty. So those hard questions or those hard understandings of how the duty is, like we had that before I even went on the duty, just to kind of throw those expectations out there. Did the same thing with deployments, put those expectations out there, being difficult to call home, communication, like all those things, already putting it out front. So I think that way we were able to tackle those hard things before it happened. So I think that really built up our understanding of it together, made us grow, and then just made us much more prepared for those arduous endeavors.
Yeah.
What about you? What would you say?
I definitely agree with everything you just said. I think that you ensuring that I was always in the loop of things, like even like you said, going on recruiting duty, kind of going with that expectation of knowing they're going to be long hours, long days, long weekends. Sometimes you weren't even home on the weekend. We couldn't even spend 2 days off with each other in a row because you were so busy. But going into that, I kind of knew that and kind of understood that from the very beginning. I think that you've always been so great at that. Even moving out here to Okinawa, you kind of told me what to expect as far as going to a new unit overseas. That we are out here in the Pacific, which is a huge force out here, and that you can get deployed at any time. So kind of going into that, knowing that could happen at any moment, has been so important for myself. But my advice would be for everyone is the 4 C's of a marriage, and that's going to be compromise, compatibility, communication, and consideration. And what those 4 C's mean is there are going to be times that you two are going to argue, and there's going to be those little tiffs that happen, but it's what you do on compromising with each other to ensure that it fits both of your guys' needs and expectations of a marriage. Next is that compatibility portion. You do have to be compatible in order to have a long-lasting relationship and marriage, and doing things that you enjoy to do together. There's one thing that we enjoy doing all the time together, and this is something that we did on recruiting duty, and we hardly ever missed it, was ensuring that we did dinner with each other. That was like the most important thing, was to end our night together, sitting down at the table, eating dinner, or going out to a restaurant, or whatever it may be, but we made sure that we did dinner every night. Out here in Okinawa, one of those compatibility things that we do is we go on a nightly walk. We go and take probably a 20-minute walk, just a stroll around our neighborhood, and just kind of digress and talk about our day. Talk about like how I had a great day at work or a bad day, or et cetera for him. Just kind of like let each other know and kind of like let it out, and then we come back into the house kind of feeling free and kind of feeling like we got it off our chest. That actually goes with my next one, which is communication. So making sure you two are communicating all the time, and making sure that communication, like he said, is so key to make sure that the spouse and service member know what's kind of going on. And the last one, consideration. Be considerate. It's so important. I know things that will set him off in his little button sometimes, and it's asking him, "What do you want to do for dinner?" He doesn't like that question, but
Simple things.
simple
Right?
things, right? Being considerate that's the last thing he wants to do. Being considerate that maybe he doesn't want to go to the exchange right after work and go and shop for, toilet paper that I could have done totally during a day. Have I done it? Absolutely. But I'm kind of learning and have learned throughout our, lifetime together that that's not something that he enjoys doing when he gets home. He just wants to come home, take off his camis, and enjoy his home life. And that's not going to the exchange or going anywhere else. Just kind of hanging out, besides that nightly walk. But I really think that's it. Do you have anything to add?
Well, so those C's are all important, but I think like even what really I think set us up throughout our relationship is the compromise piece. So
Yes.
we had to compromise really throughout, and that was kind of like the beginning, like understanding I was going to
Yeah.
leave, and then I think the other huge compromising piece was when I did go from New Jersey to California, and I had to do it on my own because you got a really good job, and we really had to pay 2 rents in 2 separate
We did.
locations, which was relatively difficult for us. But we had to compromise because for when I had my career, you didn't want to stop me from doing that. I didn't want to stop you from doing your career. So, we had to kind of reduce our lifestyle. We had to compromise with each other so that way we could do what we wanted to do. So, again, I think they're all important, but I think compromise as well as communication was really what has helped us out in our relationship.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That compromising portion, as far as having a compromise with having 2 different rents and living in 2 totally different locations, and having to actually fly to each other. It's not a quick drive anymore like it was before. And I think just making sure that both of us were just staying in constant communication with each other. We would FaceTime every night, and always make sure that we told each other good morning, good evening, and if those were the only words that we could speak with each other that day, like those were sometimes real things, because we're both very busy. There's days he was out in the field while I was in Maryland, and he couldn't necessarily communicate with me, but it was staying in between. All that communication between each other really helped us out. So yeah, I think that's about it, right?
Yeah.
So we just want to say thank you so much for listening to our military story. It has been an amazing one, and I'm looking forward to the many more years of being a military spouse. That is one of my favorite things in my life. It is a part of my identity, and I love moving around and doing it all. I think when he finally retires, I'm going to be like, when's the next PCS move in 3 years? Why haven't we gotten orders? So again, thank you so much for tuning in today and listening. And if there's anything that you take away from this today, just learn those 4 C's of a marriage. They're super important. And any advice that he was able to give both the service member and the spouse. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so have a great day, and thank you again. Bye.
Bye.